Hey everyone, I'm Kyle, this is Kaizen DIY Gym. In this video, we're going to take a look at the dialed motion Ibex and Sidewinder cable systems. For those who don't know, Dialed Motion is a small company based out of Northern California consisting of two brothers. One is a personal trainer and the other one is a mechanical engineer. They're pretty much the perfect duo for this kind of thing. Before I get started, I want to point out that Dialed Motion did not sponsor this video, but they did send me this equipment for free to test out and review. Okay, now, what problem is Dialed Motion trying to solve? Well, if you've ever tried to DIY a cable system or bought one of those cheap pulleys on Amazon, you know the pain points. The biggest issue for me is cable length. To be able to do a variety of exercises, you basically need a bunch of different cable lengths ready to go. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Or you can stick to one cable length, but that really limits the amount of exercises you're able to do. The other issue with this type of pulley system is that there's not an easy way to change the height of the pulleys. There's not an easy way to do proper lat pull downs. The last thing is the pulley pin swing. If you use this type of pulley system, you know that once that momentum starts, it's really hard to stop. There are some workarounds. You can add chains, you can add bands, but both of these sort of mess with the resistance curve. Dialed Motion addresses all of these issues with elegance and ease. Ultimately, each person has to decide how annoying this stuff is and if upgrading to this type of cable system is worth it. Overall, I think this system is really well thought out and cleverly engineered. From the big pieces all the way down to the little nuts and bolts, every single component was implemented with thought and precision. I have mine set up in a pretty unique way. I have a 6-post rep Omni rack, but because I'm in a basement, I didn't quite have enough room to set up all 6 posts. So right now, I have my Omni set up as a half rack, which left me 2 extra uprights. I found a small sliver of space between the furnace and the water softener, and that happened to be the perfect amount of space to stick those 2 uprights. I've been using it like this for months, and I'm a little biased, but I think it is the ideal way to set up this cable system. Dialed Motion markets this as a rack attached pulley system, and while I think that most people will probably use this on a rack, personally, with my own biased opinion, I think having a dedicated couple uprights for it is probably the best case scenario. I'm not going to show you how to assemble it. I didn't take video footage of that process, but if you are interested in seeing that, check out the review that Gluck's Gym did. It's very in-depth and very informative. What I will say is that it was simple to put together, and they even provide a booklet with step-by-step instructions if you need a little extra help. Both systems are super versatile. They fit a wide variety of racks, 4-post, 6-post, 2-post like squat racks. They fit racks with 5/8" holes, 1-inch holes, imperial racks, and metric racks. Pretty much anything as long as it's a 3x3. As far as I know, they don't have any products that fit a 2x3 rack or a 2x2 rack. If they were to ask me for my opinion, I think it would be worthwhile to invest in those systems. I know that there are a lot of home gym owners out there that have 2x2 or 2x3 racks that would be interested in adding this type of cable system to it. The build quality is fantastic. Aluminum pulleys with buttery smooth bearings, the carabiner with no sharp edges, the lightweight trolley with smooth rollers, the weight pin. You will not find a single component where they tried to cut corners. Once set up, both systems are easy to use. For the Ibex, you unlock the cable on the trolley, set the front trolley thing to the height you need, and then lock the cable. The Sidewinder is pretty much the same. Unlock, set, lock. Boom. The setup I use the most is probably lat pull downs. I use my Bells of Steel seal row pad and this Freedom Fabrication knee holder for some pretty effective lat pull downs. My range of motion is a tad limited due to the air duct, but I'm a little guy and I make it work. Another setup that I really like is seated rows. I pull my bench up and just go to town. The pulley ratio is 1-to-1, which means if you put 100 pounds on the weight horn, you're pulling 100 pounds. This also means that the distance you move the handle during the movement is the same distance that the trolley needs to move or the weight pin needs to move if you're using the Sidewinder. This can be an issue on shorter racks, but we'll get more into that later. The retractable cable is my favorite design feature. It makes switching between exercises super quick. Another really cool feature is how the cable retractor just clicks onto either the pulley pin or the trolley. In my opinion, the price is the only major drawback. Now don't get me wrong, I know that price is justified because of all the high quality components, but I also know that a lot of home gym owners are sensitive when it comes to price. Currently, Dialed Motion lists the Ibex system as $599 for a single and $1148 for two. The Sidewinder is $478 for a single and $908 for two. I have another small gripe, and this would be a simple fix. When using the lat pull-down attachment from any position other than underneath, the cable doesn't have something to catch onto. And for me, it kept getting jammed between the attachment and my air duct. Something I'd suggest is adding the same kind of notch from the bottom to the front. It's not a deal breaker, but maybe something worth looking into for the next iteration. Not that they're asking me, but I have another suggestion for Dialed Motion. I think it would be cool to be able to purchase these components individually so that somebody could just Franken-gym their own perfect setup. While shooting the B-roll today, I put a post on Instagram basically asking if anybody had any questions, concerns, comments, or suggestions of things for me to cover in this video. If you're not following me on Instagram, hop over and join in on the conversation. Okay, Leo's Basement Gym asked, how does it work in shorter racks? I have a Rep PR5000 80-inch. I don't have an 80-inch rack to test this out, but I do have a Bells of Steel Hydra rack that's 72 inches. The issue I ran into while trying to test this out is that the Hydra rack has 5/8 inch holes, and the version that Dialed Motion sent me is made for 1-inch holes, so I basically had to rig something together to test this out. So the distance that you're moving the handle through the movement is the same amount of distance you need for either the weight pin to move or the trolley to move. I just tried this out with single arm rows, and for what I was doing, I had enough space. The 80-inch rack will be even better, but it is something to keep in mind that that limitation does potentially exist. Joey asked, how well does the trolley roll if you only load one side? Under light weights, throw weights on either side, it doesn't really matter, but if you're gonna go heavy and put like a 45 on there, I would recommend loading the side that connects to the cable. That way the cable is basically lifting the weight and you're not putting as much stress on the rollers. Boo Dam asked, how is it a functional trainer? Which, like, I get. The picture I posted was of my setup, and with my setup, I would not call it a functional trainer. But if you throw two of these on a rack, one on each front post, then hell yeah, it's totally a functional trainer. It actually may be a good alternative for people who already invested a good amount of money into a rack, but they don't have a cable system. And then they see the Aries, they wish that they could have some sort of like cable system built in, but they don't want to go through all the hassle of like trying to sell it and then buying this other one. This would be a good way to retrofit those racks. Captain Mick Backflips asked, can it be used as a belt squat? So Dialed Motion has posted a video using it as a belt squat. I tried it as well. I'd say, hell yeah, it works great as a cable belt squat. I ended up taking the lat pull down attachment, flipping that upside down so the cable came from more like directly underneath. Typically with a belt squat, you don't want the forward pull. So you want the pulley to be like directly under where it's attached to the belt, if that makes sense. So yes, it can be used as a belt squat, totally possible. Dare Greatly said, using an Omni Rep half rack here, do you see this added equipment able to replace a fully functioning lat and cable tower for the long term? So everybody's gonna be different. I personally wouldn't wanna keep this on my half rack long term because I have weight storage on the back two posts. If you put the trolley on one of your uprights, you're essentially relegating that upright to just be used with the trolley, so you wouldn't be able to keep other attachments on there, or if you did, you'd have to remove them every time you want to use the trolley. So that wouldn't be a good long-term solution for me, but having the Ibex set up on dedicated uprights where I don't keep anything else on there is perfect. I can basically just show up, do the work, there's no setup time, there's no teardown time, and that's pretty ideal for me. And in terms of being able to use it for the long term, 100%. I will be using this for the long term. Dare Greatly also asked, what do you think are some of the best cable attachments you would add to this for a half rack? If starting from scratch and price wasn't an issue, but you wanted to get one pulley and do it right the first time. I don't geek out on handles and attachments as much as like some other people, but that being said, I appreciate attachments like the Gym Pin D handlebar because it's got a lot of holes, so you have a lot of width options and you can just connect different handles to it. And for mine, I have D handles I have Angles 90 grip handles, I have some balls, I have some cones, and with all of that, it's plenty of variety for me and keeps me happy. But everybody's different. I've seen people like geek out with an entire wall full of different lat handles and stuff, so to each their own. Dare Greatly also asked, would you please share what the quality of the cable is like? It's high quality cable that's made to last. I've made videos on this stuff before and you can check those out, but in general, vinyl coated cable is a pretty solid option. Last question, Kinda Jacked asked, what is it like using the Ibex as a lat pull down without the Sidewinder extension piece? It's definitely doable. You just don't get the direct pull down. It's more of an angled pull down. It'll still work. It's just more of a preference thing. How do you like to do lat pull downs? Even when I do them with the pull down attachment, I still lean back and so I still get the angle. So I don't know, bro. I think it works fine. Be sure to subscribe to the Dialed Motion YouTube channel. And if you're on Instagram, go ahead and give them a follow on Instagram too. They are incredibly nice guys with truly innovative equipment. I'm excited to see what they come out with over the next year. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.